Hello everyone, I'm Landon Schlungen. Today we are doing the metric Imperial converter from FreeCodeCamp. I've done this one a while back, but I want to redo the video to make it better. So we have to build something that's similar to this, convert miles into kilometers, convert kilometers into miles, gallons into liters, and pounds into kilograms, and vice versa. So it's pretty simple actually, but the test and getting all the tests to be correct is actually pretty tricky. So there's two ways we can do this. We can either clone their GitHub repo and complete it locally, or we can check out their REPL.it starter project and complete it on REPL.it. Or REPL.it. I don't know how it's pronounced, but I'll show you how to like start both of them, and then we'll pick one to do it. I think probably locally, but all right, so to do it locally, you go to the GitHub repo, go to code, and you copy this link right here. You have to have Git installed as well, and also VS Code. But yeah, once you have VS Code installed, you go to a folder that you want your project to be in, and you just do git clone. Yeah, it was weird. Okay, do git clone, and you paste in that link, and then it will clone into your project. So now we basically just have everything that was on this page right here. And then we can open up that specific folder, which is in here. I have it boilerplate projects, yeah. All right, and then we can see our different files and what's in them. Inside package.json, this is the most important one. And also we would want nodemon installed. In order to do it on REPL.it, we just click this link and then it will actually like import the project for us. And if you don't have an account, make it. If you are signed out, make sure to sign in, obviously, as well. And then just import from GitHub. So look, we can configure the run command. npm run start is perfect. Okay, cool. And then basically to run it, you just hit run. And then it shows a web view as well. But yeah, this is basically the same thing as what we have in VS Code. Now I'm going to choose which one to do. Actually, let me see if this run actually works first. It should run node server.js, but I'm not sure if it will actually do it correctly. Okay, perfectly. Running it successfully npm installed after a little while, and it ran node server.js. Perfect. And now this is the page that we get. I think I'm going to actually do it in VS Code again because I have the color theme I want, and I also have easier control over like how big it is and how small it is and what I show. So I'm going to do it on VS Code. You're basically going to have this to start off with. And basically the two files that we're going to work in is in the API.js file and the convert handler.js file. Starting off in the API.js file, this is pretty empty. So you might be confused, like, oh, what do I do here? What we have to do is we have to go app.route. But also, before we do that, to get IntelliSense, I think we have to npm install, and then it should have help with IntelliSense. So I also have to npm install in this one. And to do that, we just do npm I. I also want to install nodemon, though, so that I don't have to restart my server every time I make a change. So let's do that. So npm I nodemon, it will install nodemon, and it will install all the other packages that are specified inside package.json, which is body parser chai, all the ones that we need to run this project. And actually, it npm installed pretty quickly, just in 6 seconds. And now I can go into API.js. Or actually, first thing is I want to create a dev script here to start nodemon server.js. And that will make it so that, yeah, I don't have to restart my server every time. Inside API.js, now we should maybe get some IntelliSense. Okay, maybe not. But for here, we do app.route, and then we do /API/convert. And then we can either do it like this, .get function. I think this is how they want us to do it. So I guess we'll keep it this way. But instead of doing it like with this function thing here, I'm going to do an arrow function. So to do an arrow function, you just get rid of the function call and you just do an arrow. I also need a parenthesis at the end of this. All right, and then also when I save it will format for me. REPL.it actually does a lot of stuff that VS Code does now, but it's just not as fast, and it's a little slower and a little bit harder to uh, do all the stuff I want to do. I haven't been using it as long as well, so although it is easier to share your public URL once you're finished. So maybe you can follow along on REPL.it, and I'll just do it on my VS Code. They should be pretty much identical. Although I will say with doing it on REPL.it for the env, it says to copy it into a .env file, but actually what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to go into secrets and then add port and node.env inside of secrets. You just go new secret and then port equals 3000 or 3002 or whatever you want. And then also node.env. Node.env would be test. And you can add that secret. And then it will just run your test every time it makes a change. I also wonder if you can add a node mod into this. Okay, that did not work because it's already in use. So I have to stop it and then try again. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, and then it runs the test, which there's 0 in there, so it's not going to do anything. But inside the web view, it says it's on port 3000, but it doesn't show a web view. Yeah, it was a long shot. I didn't know if that was going to work or not. Okay, what if I just add node mod onto server.js? Then I hit run. I'm going to control C this and run again. Oh, it still does just starting node server.js. Like it didn't even pick this up. Yeah, see, this is why I don't use REPL. VS Code is just superior. REPL made some big strides, but it's still not as good as VS Code is. Okay, how do we actually see this? We can go npm run dev. And since we added that script inside of our package JSON of dev, it'll start node.mod server.js, and it will listen on port 3000 because that's what we specify. Actually, we didn't even specify that, but when we create a .env file, we can specify it. And then we just go to localhost 3000, and here's our project. So right now, nothing happens when we hit convert, and we have to fix that. First thing I want to do is inside of api.js. After we create this route, my GitHub Copilot is helping me out. But yeah, this is basically everything that we need to do. I think it's picking up on my previous project that I did. So basically we just we get the input from the query params. If you don't know the query params, they come out of this question mark afterwards. So it's like when we go and make a request to localhost 3000/API/convert, and then we have a question mark at the end. And then the input, it will turn that into a query param. So basically if we do input equals 4 gallons, and then we send that to our server right here, this will pick it up and it will, inside the input, it will be gallons equals 4, or input equals 4. Okay. Or it'll be input equals 4 gallons. Okay. So this input will turn into 4 gallons, and then we pass that into our get number function and our get unit function. And basically these functions, we want to extract the number off it and the unit, just so that we get those separated. But if we don't have either of them, then we say invalid number and unit. If we just don't have if we don't have a number, then we say invalid number. Or if invalid unit is an invalid unit, that's also invalid. And then our convert function will actually take what we have, which would be the 4 gallons, and convert it into liters. And then your return unit will, if it's gallons, it'll return liters. If it's kilometers, it'll be miles. And then our getString function will create that string that they have at the end of it. So if we look at theirs, it creates this string, 3.1 miles converts to kilometers. Okay, so this looks all good. Now I'm going to go into my other file that's very important, which is convert handler. So inside of this handler, outside of this function, we need 2 helper functions. And these two helper functions will help us separate the gallons from the number, or the unit from the number. And basically, we have a number string splitter, which will take our input, and it will get the number and the string out of it and return it as an array. And then check div will make sure that we have division, because if you see here, they want to allow us to go 1 divided by 3 miles, and that works, but they don't want us to do 1 divided by 3 divided by 3. That one should be invalid number. Okay, that's the reason why we do these helper functions. And then we use them. In this.getNum. We use that number string splitter, and we basically take the first one off of that. So this gets the number. This is a regular expression that just gets the digits. If there's no digit, then it will just be 1. And then we take that out and we throw it into this result. So now this result is a number, and we need to check and make sure that that's a division. Yeah, so we also match a slash. So if it's 1 divided by 3, it'll also get matched, which is interesting. And then we make sure it's a division. If it's not division, then we return false. If it's not division, like if it's 1 divided by 3 divided by 3, then it will return false, and then we return undefined out of this function. And then this function, if it returns undefined, it will be an invalid number. We also check to see if it's a this check division function, it also splits the number by slash. So if it is a division, it'll be like 1 divided by 3, right? And then it will return an array of 1 and 3. And so when it returns 1 and 3 as an array, like so, and it returns this, then we have to actually do that division. And that's what this does. So we parse our float number 1. So even if this is 1.3, it will still work. We parse that float and divide it. And then we say, if number 1 is not a number, or number 2 is not a number, then we return undefined. So if these have letters in them somehow, or if they're somehow not even a number like null or something, I don't even know how that would happen, but if they're not a number, then it returns undefined as well, which would be an invalid number. Otherwise, we return the result, which would be them divided, or if it's just a 1. So let's say, or like 4 gets passed in. Let's follow this. So 4 gallons gets passed in first. We number string split it, right? And that will take the number out of it, which would be 4. And then we go check division, and it says possible fraction split. In this case, it just returns an array of 4. It would just be an array of 4 because there's no other number in there. And then it takes that and it just goes number 1 is that, and then number 2 is 1. Okay. And then we do 4 divided by 1, which would be 4. And then we return that result. So it's just 4. So that's it's kind of convoluted to do all this stuff, but it's so that it passes all the tests for validation. Now our get unit function. Our get unit function, I think, is a little bit simpler. For this one, first we get the letters out of it with the number string splitter. This matches A through Z and A through Z uppercase. So that would be like gallons if we pass that in, or any other string we passed in, even if it's garbage. But if it's garbage, then it'll go down to default and return undefined, which would be invalid. So it has to match either kilometers, gallons, pounds, miles, liters, kilograms. In the case of liters can be uppercase, or actually all of these can be uppercase or lowercase. But in the case of liters, it will return an uppercase L. I know it's very weird and confusing. All right, so the return unit, basically it will be another switch case statement, but it'll be like kilometers, then it will be miles instead. All right, this get return unit. All right, first we take our initial unit and make sure it's lowercase just to standardize it. And then we, if it's kilometers, then return miles, and so on and so forth. until we get down. If it's gallons, return uppercase liters. And then if it doesn't match anything, again, return undefined. Now spell out unit. Spell out unit is so that we can actually say kilometers instead of just km. And it's another switch case statement. This time if it's km, return kilometers. If it doesn't match anything, just say don't know. I'm not sure if I actually use that any further down, but I don't know, I just thought that was funny. And then convert, this is where we actually convert. Like, oh my gosh, all this work and then only to just convert stuff, right? So for the conversions, I take their numbers and I either divide or times depending on what we're doing. If it's kilometers, then we take our number and we divide by miles to kilometers. If it's gallons, we do 4 times gallons to liters, which would be 3.8. Like 1 gallon is 3.8 liters. If it's 1 pound, that would be to kilograms, which is about 0.45 kilograms. If it's miles to kilometers, then we also multiply, and so on and so forth. This is how we do those conversions. And then when we return it, we make sure to do .toFixed. This will cut it off, or cut off the decimal point to 5 places so that it doesn't go on for, 20 decimal places. And then we're on to our getString function. And the getString function is probably the simplest one of this. All we do is we return right away and then backticks, and we take our initial number and we do this spell out unit so that it will take our km and actually spell it out to kilometers. So it'll be like 5 kilometers converts to, 3.1 miles, and it will also spell out miles for us. And I think that's basically it. So if we, save all of this stuff, and then also make sure it reran it. It looks like identifier unit has already been declared, so it crashed. And that is in .to lowercase convert handler 74. I can actually just control click this and it'll take me right there. So let unit, okay, yeah. So to fix this, I just got to change unit to initial unit, and then it should work fine. And yeah, now it's listing in port 3000 again. All right, so if I go to port 3000, this is my 3000 one. And actually, let me zoom in. All right, and let's try 5 miles. 5 miles converts to 8 kilometers, and then it gives us this return as well. And the return comes from our API.js. When we return res.json, we have our initial number, initial unit, all inside this object, and then it will, even string turns to string. So you can see that here, string right here, and it, gives us that. Okay, and it should work for everything except for our tests, or our own tests. For FreeCodeCamp's test, that should work for all of them except for our own test, if that makes sense. So let me show you what I mean. If I do localhost 3000, whoops, and I go into their tests here, and I say, here's my solution. I've completed the challenge. Okay, so a couple of them don't pass, looks like. The unit of measurement is invalid. Returned will be invalid unit. Okay, I think this is wrong because after we say res.json, we have to return out. Otherwise, it will like do some weird stuff and hang. So let me actually fix this. Actually, it's because I did else if though. Let me see if I can fix this just by copying my other project. Okay, so the difference here is, yeah, I'm still returning out of this stuff, even with an else if. But let's see if it actually passes these tests now. It should okay, yeah, it did restart for us. Say we've completed it. Okay, yeah, this is what I expected here. So all of them are passing except for the unit tests and functional tests. In order to do these, we can find them inside of our test folder and inside of unit tests. You'll see these on the side. You'll see them in the test folder, unit tests and functional tests. Our unit test, there's nothing in here, and same for functional test, nothing in here. And we have to use Chai and Mocha to do these. the unit tests are pretty straightforward. All right, so we started with this, and when I paste, we have all this stuff, okay? So the unit tests, we start with a suite, and then we have a suite under this to, organize the stuff a little better. So I wonder where this suite ends. It matches up with this one. So the suite ends here, and then we add another suite. So this suite tests our function convert handler get num. So this tests our get num function, and then this tests our get unit function. And then our next one tests our get return unit. This one tests out our spellout unit. This one tests convert, all of our different conversions, and that's about it. So for the whole number input, we take our 32 liters and we make sure that we get 32 out. For decimal, we do 32.2, make sure we get 32.2 out. And there's also something called test-driven development, and that's where you actually start with your tests first, and then you work backwards and try and make them pass as you go along. I didn't do that. I didn't do that for this project, but it's definitely a viable way to develop. 32 divided by 3, make sure we get that out of there. And same with 9 divided by 3.3. If it's a decimal, make sure we get that out. If there are two divisions, then it should be undefined. If it's a big liters, then we should get 1 out of the number, because there's no numerical input. Then it just defaults to 1. For get units, we need to make sure that for all of these units, we get the correct output, which is all in lowercase except for the liters. And then for our unknown inputs, so this time we pass in a whole kilograms, but it doesn't take that, so it should return undefined. And then for get return unit, if it's gallons, it'll return liters, liters to the gallons, miles, kilometers, and so on and so forth. And then I do a for each to, assert all of them at once. So I don't have to go down the line and assert, 6 different times. And then spell out units, make sure these are spelled out correctly. And convert, make sure we have the right conversions. This one is from, what is this, gallons to liters. Then we do liters to gallons, miles, kilometers, kilometers to miles, pounds to kilometers, and kilometers to pounds. And then we're all done with the unit tests. So to see if these unit tests are passing, you'll see that my tests aren't actually being run. That's because we have to do a .env file, and then inside of our .env, actually I put this in the wrong one. Do that. I want to put this on the outside, so .env. We take our sample env and we just copy this over. So copy this into a .env file. If you don't know, .env files are for your secrets and stuff you don't want to have committed to your GitHub repo. And then just to uncomment this node env test, and then it should run our tests after I restart this. So say yes, and then npm run dev again. And then it should run our tests. Yep, running tests. And as you can see, our unit test pretty much finished instantly. And now we have to do our functional tests. So inside of functional tests, all right, here's our functional tests. Again, we start with the suites to make them more organized. And we have our routing tests. This one will test our get and convert 10 liters. So in this case, we call /API/convert and we give it an input of 10 liters inside the query. And then we make sure that what we get back is what we expect, which would be 2.64 gallons approximately by 0.1, I guess. And then we do the same thing for if it's an invalid input, we make sure we get undefined out of there for our initial units. And for invalid number, we make sure our init number is undefined if it's invalid. For a bad invalid number and unit, like 2 divisions and an invalid unit, then we make sure they're both undefined. And then if there's no number, then we make sure that it's 1, and then it converts correctly into pounds. All right, so that's all our functional tests, and saving there should run both of them now. So there's our 5 functional tests, and then it should pass all the tests on FreeCodeCamp as well. Let's say we've completed it. And if I hadn't done this before, I think it would say, oh, you've completed the challenge, now move on. Or also it want to do a publicly visible app URL. So I actually want to check and see if I can put this on Replit for you guys, and you guys can just check it out there instead of on my GitHub. Although I have this on my GitHub, it might be a slightly different. Let me actually just copy all this stuff over quick. All right, I successfully moved everything over to REPL.it, so let's see if this runs correctly. All right, looks like my unit tests are running. Maybe all the tests did run. Check the web view, showing up yet. Oh, here we go. 21 passing. Okay, perfect. See if this will actually show up. What if I do new tab? Ooh, my RAM is just heating this thing up, I guess. That must be why. I hit my limit. I would have to upgrade. Man, REPL is so stupid. Well, anyways, if it did work, we would just take this boilerplate project here and we would put it inside of the solution link. Now, if it did actually work, and then say we've completed it, but I'm not sure if it will actually run because it's like apparently overheating or something. Yeah, it's not gonna pass any of them. These are all timing out. Okay, yeah. I can't do REPL. REPL is just annoying the shit out of me, so yeah, I'm just gonna end it here. If you like the video, make sure to give it a like. We built this beautiful metric Imperial converter. Most of it done inside of our API.js file, and here's all of that. I'll make it smaller so you can see the whole thing. Here's that, and then convert handler also, which is mostly our validation, and then our switch case statements for a bunch of different things. And that's about it. What do we have next? So inside quality insurance, the next project is issue tracker, and I'll see you in that next video. All right, see ya. Peace out. Bye.